Hello. What we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about how to use the OpenSCAD program in order to create your puzzle pieces for your puzzle cube project. For this, you're going to first want to go to OpenSCAD.net. Upon doing so, you're going to open up a page that looks similar to this. Now, in this interface, you're going to use a CAD designing program, which is computer-aided design, in order to create your different puzzle pieces. Now, when we look at this interface, a few different things that you're going to want to do first is you're going to want to go to View and click Show Axes. When you do that and you zoom out a little bit, then you're going to pull up these axes. Now, on these axes, this red axis is going to be your x-axis. The green will be your y, similar to just like your 2D graphing that you would normally do in math class. And then this blue line is going to be the third dimension, which is going to be your z-axis. Now let's first go over how to create a basic cube. You're going to go over here to the area where we type our code. I'm going to zoom in for you so that way you can see the code a little bit better. When you're trying to make a cube, you're just going to type cube, and then you're going to put a parenthesis, a bracket, and now here's where your dimensions go. You're first going to put in your x dimensions. So if you want your shape to be 10 along the x, you're going to put 10. Then if it's a cube, we're going to put 10 along the y and then 10 along the z. Notice how I closed my bracket and my parenthesis in the same order in which I started them, and then I pressed the semicolon. Now I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to go to Design and I'm going to go to Reload and Compile. So now what I've done is I've created a cube. Now, obviously for your puzzle pieces, these are made up of more than just one cube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple different things in order to show you how you can create the remaining parts of your cube. One way that you can do this is you can just go ahead and you can change one of these values within your formula. For example, I could change my x to 20. I go to Design, Reload and Compile, and now that's made it so that way it looks like we've got two blocks stacked up next to one another. Also, you can rotate your image as well as zoom in on your image by using your trackpad on your mouse. However, I strongly recommend that you always get it so that way you've got your x, y, and z in this orientation, otherwise it'll make it confusing. Now that we've got this shape, if let's say we want to stack a cube on top, one thing that we can then do is we can copy this code. Because again, this is going to be a code that you're going to be using over and over for this project since your puzzle cube project is made up of cubes. But before I put in that code, I'm going to keep my initial code so that way I don't get rid of this shape. But now what I'm going to type is I'm going to type translate, because translate is going to be the same thing as move, and I'm going to type in my bracket. I'm going to put 0, so that means I'm going to move it 0 along my x. I'm going to move it 0 along my y, and then if I put a 10 there, that means I want to translate it 10 units along my z. And then I'm going to paste in my cube code again, but I'm going to change that 20 back to a 10, because remember, I had extended this cube in order to make it a double cube by changing this number here from a 10 to a 20. So now if I go to Reload and Compile, oh, I realized that I put in periods instead of commas. So now if I go to Reload and Compile, then what I'm going to have is I'm going to have a nice shape that looks like this. Okay, now notice that I just arranged it so that way I can see my top, front, and side views. When you're about to take this screenshot, I strongly recommend that you do this so that way you can see the top, front, and side, so that way it's similar to how you had it for your your isometric drawing. Before I take my picture, I'm also just going to get rid of my axes just to make it look a little bit prettier. what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the snipping tool. I have it pinned down on my taskbar, but you may need to look for it in your start menu. When you click on snipping tool, it's going to bring this up. You're going to click new, and then you're going to click and drag the area that you want to take a picture of. Once I've got that, I'm going to click the copy button, which is up here. I'm going to go into my CAD design template, which is found on Google Classroom, and I'm going to press Ctrl V, and I'm going to paste it in. Now, that's how you put in your different puzzle pieces. So now, once you have one puzzle piece, you'll go back to the OpenSCAD platform. Again, I would show your axes, and then I would just delete your code again and start over in order to create your different puzzle pieces. Again, the most basic code is the cube code, and then you can move on from there by incorporating the translate code.